You're here, but you're not here. Just messing with them. Yeah, so do it now. Oh, well. Redonkulous. Okay. Yeah. You're getting better, though. You're getting better, though. Are we on, Mr. Bram? Nice. Hello, hello. Okay, I figured we would probably have a sparse crowd today. But I figured that we would have more people online as well. So, let's see. Lou, Mariette, Janet. Who else are we missing? Daisy, Paulette. Who else? I know you guys are on here. But then you've got Cade and Richard and a couple of other people that always get on. So, hello. I don't know if they made a better decision than we did of getting out into the snow and everything, but yeah, I'm glad it didn't stick. That's nice. So, did you guys turn on? I know that Laurie had a fire in her hearth and everything yesterday. Yeah, that's the wood stove is happening. Oh man, yeah, and that's just not quite the same as the button that we press to turn on the fire. Yeah, the crackling and stuff is just the of it being on. I'm not as much of a fan. So, oh well, that's okay. But we're surviving this first stint of snow, and if you're at home, I hope that you're surviving as well with some fiery wood crackling in the fireplace, or just out there on a bus or something like that. The firing wood on fire in the fireplace. Just there's fire, and it's happening. So. Alrighty, well, I'm glad that you guys joined us today. We are continuing on in our minor prophet stint. If you guys, I think most all of us were here for Marshall's Amos study, and we flew through that, man. That's relatively speaking, I feel like we did. Yeah, and we were able to cover 9 chapters of content, is that right? 9 chapters of content, pretty much in the whole thing. Everything that you could theologically know about Amos, it happened. Right? So, if we're continuing on our minor prophets study, we're actually going to be in Jonah. But before we go to Jonah, we're going to go to 2 Kings 14, because that's where we hear about Jonah for the first time. But before we get into all of that good stuff, have you any guys heard of moral dilemmas before? You've had some moral dilemmas. I would like to know what those moral dilemmas are. These are... I think that they're fun, but this one in particular is talking about death, so I don't know exactly how much fun that you could really have with something like this. But moral dilemmas are supposed to be these impossible decisions you've got, what's great is that whenever I ask my teenagers questions like these, they become philosophical geniuses. And just, man, here are, this is exactly why I'm right on both sides and stuff too. And the truth is that it's a moral dilemma for a reason, because maybe there is no right answer, and that's okay. So I want to start off with this moral dilemma and see what you guys think. Okay, so I'm just gonna read it from right here, and it's not. I mean, we can see it, but it's not super clear. But it says there's a person right here with a lever, and the person with the lever can choose to either divert the tram from the main track, which goes into killing 5 people on the track, but whenever they divert it, they kill the worker on the outer track. Okay, so the problem is the tram is coming. Apparently there's no way to stop. All 6 of these people have their backs turned, can't see the tram or the trolley or the train or whatever it is. And it's on a one-way track, and it's going to kill these 5 workers that have their backs turned to it. So you notice and you see the problem, and you have an opportunity to change the fate. You have the opportunity to pull a lever, which will in turn kill this person. And for many of us, it might feel cut and dry. But to know that you are directly responsible for killing this person, that you make a direct decision to kill this person, what's the answer? And which, I don't think that there is an answer. What do you think? What's more morally acceptable? Guys! In this particular scenario, they have noise silencing. They're jackhammering. They have noise silent. They can't hear you. If you can beat the tram or the trolley, I guess, yeah. 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 Go, go, go. Oh, man, I would kill just to see you with this big stick. Get out of the way. Have him actually kill, yeah. All right, what do you think? What would you do?
No hesitation on all that part.
Yeah, she said.
Well, I mean, you kill one or you kill five. I mean, what would you feel less guilty about? I'd kill the guy pulling the lever.
I'm going to remove the decision altogether. Boo. Oh, sorry, that's just the stick. Just right there in the back. Okay? Right? All right, so it feels pretty cut and dry. It's one person over 5 persons, right? And so it's a Oh yeah, okay, so let me play Yeah, no, yeah, so let's play the devil's advocate. So I'm gonna pit Laurie because we're friends like that, right? So in Laurie's mind, I'm gonna put words in her mouth. In Laurie's mind, this one person is or these 5 people have more value and worth than this one person. That's what Laurie said.
Not necessarily. I'm just saying, like, it's not even emotional, it's psychological. Do I want to feel bad about one person or 5? I feel like the guilt
All right.
multiplies per person.
Oh, it does.
Because now I'm not just impacting those 5 people, but I'm impacting their family. Like,
Yeah?
That's a lot.
They're all brothers, so it's just one family. I'm just kidding. Yeah, right? Oh, man, this is terrible. Yeah, that's 5 from them. Yeah. So the other question, too, are you directly responsible if you don't do anything? Because you know, but you didn't. You just walked across.
Find out which ones were saved. And
Okay, this is where the moral dilemma comes. Okay, look at this. This is a very, very good person, and then we'll switch it. This is a super, super good person, and these guys are all bad.
that's a gang from LA.
A gang from LA. So let's just assume that they're not saved. This guy's saved. What do you want to do?
Take out the gang. Because I would go for the ones because there'd be a chance maybe they turn around and get saved.
So you would kill the righteous man.
Well, you know where he's going. I know where he's going.
See, whenever we throw spirituality and Christianity, it just makes it easier, right? All right, let's flip the tables then, okay? All of these guys are good, righteous people, and this is one bad person. I want to see you in this situation. This is the way that it goes. Just remove the decision altogether. We're killing this person. That's not an option, but let's kill this person. Right? She's just going to stop the trolley. I don't know how. Okay? And just derail it so all the people on the trolley die. But not these people. We're making some good traction. Okay? Hey, Mariette. All right. So here's another moral dilemma. Okay? And I shared these with the teenagers. And it's so funny because just the brain is very high functioning as a teenager. And so some of them were like, this is the answer and this is why. And if you think anything else, you're dumb. And that's the reason why. Right? So no, it wasn't. It wasn't actually. There's a couple more vocal. Alex keeps his tongue most of the time. Most of the time. All right, so here's another one, okay? Similar, okay? Remove the trolley, okay? You've got 5 people that are physically damaged. One person needs a lung. Another person needs another lung. One person needs a kidney. Do we have 2 kidneys? The other one needs another kidney, and the other one needs a heart. You've got one guy that has all of those things. Right? Just like us. Now let's throw the tram into it and see, right? Yeah.
We took the trolley out of it, didn't we?
Right, no trolley. This is just, somebody, we've got 5 sick people. One person needs a left lung, the other one needs a right lung, the other one needs a left kidney, right kidney, and a heart. So you got 5 people. They're going to die without it. Do you kill? Right. So you've got one person that says, or that has all of those things. One of us. Kill a person to save 5. No? The trolley. The trolley's gone, but I think we just need to keep it in the story.
He was perfectly healthy and fine, and
So you'd kill the 5.
Well, they're gonna die anyway. I'm not killing them. They're gonna die anyway.
But I think
not gonna die. We don't have knowledge that this man is gonna die soon. We have knowledge that the 5 are gonna die soon. So why would we take his life?
well,
This
would
is
be
the
up to him,
dilemma.
right?
Yeah, is it up to that person, or everybody's unconscious? Everybody's unconscious, and the doctor/surgeon has to make a decision. I don't know. Okay, this is, yeah. See, there's lots of. Okay, where can we throw all of these things in here? So, yeah, I want to. What do you think?
My nephew got a heart and he still died later. So
I correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like with heart transplants, there's like, oh, it's a pretty high percentage of if it's gonna work or if it's not gonna work. It's like 50.
for a while, but he never got the full
Right.
thing like he,
Right.
should have gotten.
Yeah.
And so you think, well, about the rest.
Yeah. Okay. The moral dilemmas. Okay. So here we are in Jonah. Okay. But if you just walked in, we're in 2 Kings chapter 14, because this is the first time that we hear about Jonah. And I kind of want us to kind of sit in the I don't know if awkwardness is the word. I kind of want us to sit in them. And these are difficult decisions here. Okay. Because for many of us, maybe it's cut and dry. It's like, okay, well, there's 1 person versus 5 people, so I can make it pretty cut and dry, something like that. So, I mean, the question here is there a right answer to a dilemma like this? Okay, is there a right answer? And I think maybe at the end, we're talking about Jonah for 2 weeks, this Tuesday, and then not next Tuesday, right? Not next. I don't think we had decided on that. My family will be in town, so I would not like to be here if that's okay. Or I could bring the family. I mean, that's fine. That would be fun. So, yeah, I'm sure my family would like to hear. I think so too. I think we're leaning towards not having class, people online, just so you know. Okay. Yeah, there's too many things. So maybe we can make a more informed decision on what is the right answer whenever it comes to human life at the end of Jonah. Cool part about Jonah, it's only a couple of chapters long, and it is equal parts this super, super easy children's story that we've read this past week, and it takes us a grand total of 4 minutes to read this children's story version of it, right? And Remington and Raina, they both understand what happens in the story. It's not super deep. I remember having a VBS about it, and it was just this really, really cool thing. We had one room that was inside of the whale, so you've got like it's just really, really cool. And then Nineveh, and these children's stories. I actually watched. One upper over here. Oh, Jesus juke there. See, I need to actually go up. This Sight and Sound, right? I have not yet gone to go see it. Okay. Well, it had Jesus, and I didn't go. I'm like, man, that's the one. They do that every year? Okay. Because I know they had Samson, Moses, trying to think. Noah. Team bonding experience. Team bonding. Okay, let's go. The 3 of us and Andrea. Okay. Let's do it. That sounds great. After this class, we'll go ahead and go up to Branson. Sounds good, right? Let's go to Branson. But that's the really cool part about Jonah is that it's this epic story that, I mean, is most known for the big fish swallowing him and stuff, and it's epic. And you can tell that story every week in children's church, and it's going to get applause all around because it's so cool. The cool part about that, though, is that my now four-year-old son can understand this story, but you can talk about it on a doctorate level for a long time, which is crazy. And it's only just a couple of chapters. The Bible Project actually did this. They were testing out this new teaching series, and I think it was 11 one-hour sessions talking about Jonah. 11 one-hour sessions. And I, not in preparation for this class, but because I'm a nerd, I listened to, I think, 3 of them, and I was like, I can't Like, it's just too much. It's so much. But it's so good. So what's cool is that Remington can understand it and that we can sit and chew on it and have been chewing on it for many of our lives, this crazy epic story, okay? So the first thing that we hear about Jonah, it's here in 2 Kings chapter 14, and we're going to start in verse 23, okay? And remember, this Jonah is a contemporary of Amos. I believe, from what Marshall said last week, that he may have been a little bit before Amos, because he prophesied about Jeroboam II, prophesied about the things that are happening there. So they're contemporaries happening at the same time, but Jonah may or may not have come a little bit before that. But they're prophesying at the same time, okay? But they're prophesying to different people, okay? So we've got Jeroboam II, and we'll just start here in verse 23 of 2 Kings 14. It says this, "In the 15th year of Amaziah, the son of Joash, the king of Judah, Jeroboam, the son of Joash, the king of Israel, began to reign in Samaria, and he reigned for 41 years. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and he did not depart from all the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which he made Israel sin." Verse 25, "He restored the border of Israel from Lebo-Hamath as far as the sea of Arabah, according to the word of the Lord, the God of Israel, which he spoke by his servant Jonah, the son of Amittai, the prophet, who was from Gath-hepher." Okay? So, correct me if I'm wrong, Marshall, this is the only time that Jonah is mentioned, at least prophesying outside of, besides the New Testament, Jonah right here, okay? So we know this is the same guy because of where he's from and who his father is. In the very first verses of Jonah, you can see that this is the same guy, okay? So, Jonah prophesying, and he's prophesying good stuff. He says, man, and remember Amos, okay? Jeroboam, good king, bad king. Not a good dude, okay? But the economy and the land is doing fantastic, okay? And I can think about, there's lots of allusions to, I think, America and stuff now that you could say, man, economy, affluence, wealth, like even the poorest of us have many things that the rest of the world don't have, right? These things. But morally, the place of Jeroboam II, he set up stuff that was terrible. We're talking about idol worship, everything that Marshall talked about. They have open sexuality, okay? The father and son use the same woman. That's what Amos talked about. They're neglecting the poor. They're not doing justice. They're throwing people in jail over a pair of shoes. Do you need a pair of shoes? Yes, I do. Okay, well, this is how much you have to pay. Well, what if I take out a loan? Something, and then they're putting them into servanthood forever over a pair of shoes, which is crazy. So all of these negative things, and the big thing is that they're neglecting God. These are God's people, and they're supposed to be serving God with everything that they have, and they're doing the opposite. So God looks at them and says, I don't even recognize who you guys are anymore. Like, you guys are supposed to be my people, but you look more like your pagan neighbors than you do like my people, which is crazy. And so Amos goes into Israel and is preaching against all of that stuff. And it didn't work out super well for Amos, but the message was there. Jonah, he prophesied that all of these good things about Israel were going to happen under the reign of Jeroboam II. That the borders are going to be bigger, that there's going to be affluence, that there's going to be wealth, and the economy is going to be great, which is true. The wealthy are super, super wealthy, and the poor are very, very poor. And so good things are happening whenever it comes to Jeroboam II's reign, but he's just a bad dude. He's just a bad king, and he's leading them away from God, okay? And so Jonah prophesies, hey, all these things are going to happen, okay? So if you're a prophet, and you prophesy, man, good things are going to happen. We're going to get bigger, you guys are going to get richer, all these things, and then it happens, celebrity. That's what I think. You're a celebrity prophet, right? We read lots of prophets that have lots of doom and gloom and all these kinds of things. Jonah, he's saying, man, this good stuff's going to happen. This is great. Everybody's like, what, really? And it happens. They're like, Jonah! I watched the VeggieTales version of Jonah. Have you guys ever watched that? What's funny is that, like, I was watching it from, like, at least I tried to, like, watch it, like, I wonder how deep this really is. Jonah, he comes in, he sings a song about how, remember, guys, wash your hands, do all these good things, and you've got a blessing from the Lord. And everybody's like, what's the word? What does he say? What's the word, Jonah? They're all asking him. He's like, good things. And he's saying like all these, and everybody's like, yeah, Jonah. Everybody loves Jonah. Now, let's go to Jonah, chapter 1. See if we can get there. Hold on. There it is. Man, it's so deep, but it doesn't even take two full pages on mine, okay? So our goal today, let's see if we can make it. I think we can. Our goal today is get to the end of chapter 2, so half this book. Get the end of chapter 2. There's lots of content in chapter 1, and it's so quick. Lots of things are happening, conversations, and then chapter 2 is all about a prayer. And it's really divided out into four distinct parts. And so we're going to focus on the first 2 parts, okay? So we've got this guy, celebrity, what I can assume to be a celebrity prophet, and he's here, okay? All right, chapter 1 of Jonah. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, so we know this is the same guy, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and call out against it, for their evil has come up before me. Okay? 2 verses. Pretty simple, okay? Cut and dry. What is a prophet's job? Preach God. God gives them a word. They go and give the word. Okay? That's it. Right? God gives them a word. They go and give the word. And sometimes, kind of like Amos a little bit, I can't remember exactly, Amos a little bit, but for sure Jeremiah, the word that's inside them, they are compelled to say it, even if it causes them trouble. Okay? That's what Jeremiah says. It's like this fire in my bones. If I stop saying it, it like physically hurts me or something like that. I have to say these words. I have to say them out. Jonah, those are some pretty good words for him to say. Hey, man, maybe that's not a fire of like blessings are going to happen. Oh, that feels so good because I get celebrated and stuff. And then God says, I want you to arise and go to Nineveh, that great city, and I want you to call out against it, for their evil has come up before me. But, verse 3, Jonah rose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. He went down to Joppa, found a ship going to Tarshish. He paid the fare and went down to it, and to go with them to Tarshish away from the presence of the Lord. A lot to unpack there. Let me see if I can get this really quick. Let's just see just how far. Come on, baby. Here we go. Okay. We'll see just how far some of these things are, okay? Now, many of us, it says right here, arise and go to Nineveh, that great city, and call out against it, for their evil has come up before me. And Jonah doesn't go, okay? I don't know, we all know the job description of a prophet. Get a word from God, go preach the word from God. He gets the word from God, goes the opposite direction, okay? Let's just kind of, why do you think, let's just say this, why do you think that he doesn't want to go to Nineveh? Oh, yeah? It says, I want you to call out against that city, for their evil has come up before me. Okay, Amos, he had a similar message. You guys are making some bad decisions, and the truth is that bad stuff is going to happen from God if you don't change your ways. He's going to a place that are not God's people, that are not in God's land, and teaching or preaching them the same thing. You guys are doing bad stuff. You guys need to change, or bad things are going to happen. Okay, being a celebrity prophet that teaches good things. This is a hard message. This is what's funny is that this is a message that like all of the prophets have to teach. Of like, here's the deal. You guys might be doing good in some aspects, but it said in Amos chapter 1 that the Lord roars like a lion. He's just it comes out and he says, here's the deal. It's gonna sound really bad, but it's for your good. Okay? So why else would he not want to go to Nineveh? Does anybody know anything about Nineveh? Or when I asked that question to the teenagers, they said, yeah, they slap people with fish. I said, well, that's odd. Because that's from the VeggieTales. That was the sin that they were committing all the time, was that they slapped each other with fish. Okay? And that's, Jonah almost dies from a fish coming down and smacking him. I'm telling you, you guys need to watch. That's such a good movie. Yeah, so we watched it for the first time with our kiddos, and it was a good time.
Seems like you've got a home on the beach.
Hey.
Go inland.
Yeah, why did we come up over here?
Where was he when God ordered him to go to Nineveh?
So he was let's see, I'm trying to see where it says it. So he was probably in his hometown of Gath-Hephath.
Oh, okay.
Let's see, where does it say that? Do you see it, Marshall? Oh, I'm sorry. He was probably in his hometown of Gath-Hephath. Gath-Hepher. Thank you. And so, okay, here's the map, right? You've got the Jesus place right there up in Israel of the Sea of Galilee where Jesus was. And then you've got Judah, the Dead Sea, all those kinds of things. And right over there in Jerusalem, that's where kind of Amos came up to Bethel. And that's where he was preaching. This is a pretty small chunk of land. Jonah hears the word of the Lord, goes down to Joppa, gets a ticket to the end of the world, basically. Okay? Remember, they don't know how big the world is and stuff. And so on the VeggieTales thing, he's got the map. He's like, where can I go? That's the way, that's the farthest from the Lord. And it's the map, and then it's like on the side of it. So not even on, if it's like this box, it's like over here on the side where you can't see. At the end of the world, he boards a ship to go to Tarshish, to the end of the world, away. What's the end of verse 3? Away from the presence of the Lord, which is just comical, okay? Here is this guy that this is his job. This is vocation. I'm going to be the mouthpiece of God to God's people, and God is calling him away from God's people to Israel's enemies and going and preaching a difficult message. And he says, no, I don't want to go. And not only that, I'm going to flee from my job, but I'm going to go to the ends of the world to get away from that. Okay, so then the question, why doesn't he want to go? We have some pretty good answers. He's a celebrity, and this is a tough message. Okay, he's got it good. Why would he leave and go inland away from the beachfront property, away to go up to Nineveh? Well, Nineveh is the capital of Assyria, and we know from the prophets, and we're going to see all of this kind of be laid out in front of us, that Assyria are the ones that come and initially destroy Israel and take over Israel because of the sins that Israel is committing. And eventually, they don't officially take over Judah, right? Eventually, Babylon comes and takes over everything. The Assyrians are not good dudes, okay? The Assyrians are pretty bad. And they're coming into more power. You need to correct me if I'm wrong. They're coming into more power. They're not quite the world power that they are that takes over tons of land whenever they actually take over Israel. But they've got a reputation. Here's the reputation. Whenever the Assyrians, so Nineveh is the capital of Assyria, whenever the Assyrians would go and take over other lands, they wouldn't do it amicably the way that we would do it today. So they would normally, if they come into Israel or they come into a place, if they don't completely destroy you, which a lot of times they completely destroy you, they would put a ring in your nose or a ring in your lip that was attached to a long chain and attached, think like you're attached to somebody. So all of us attached to each other, like, the ring is here and then like a small rope that's attached to this person, to this person, this person. And they would lead us away from our homes and our families and all these things and lead us away into captivity. Not great. That sounds pretty brutal. Why don't you just chain them up? No, you've got to make sure that they don't try and get away because they're going to rip a hole in their nose or in their, right? That's pretty intense. But that was if you were lucky. That was if you were lucky. You were carted away alive with either a ring in your nose or a ring in your face. A lot of times, some of these, the people that they would overtake, some of them were skinned alive. And there were some places that I was reading on that they would take their skin and put skin on the walls of their tents. Lovely, indeed. We're all decorating for the holidays here not too long. Just a thought. Yeah, there was many, especially the men, were buried alive. So, throw them down into a pit, rocks, then dirt, and then you just leave. They're done. Some were burned alive, okay? There's a lot of time, especially with the males, they would cut off the hands, or at least one hand, specifically the right hand, right? Because that's your fighting hand. Of the males, maybe cut off the feet of the males, or I'll get to that in a second. Why would you do that to the males? Cut off hands or feet?
Well, they're the ones that are going to try and rebel
Yeah.
against them.
How can you rebel if you can't hold a sword?
Some reports they have mounds of feet in these cities.
So all of us, ring in our thing, we're going to the capital in Nineveh or something like that, and as we're going by, we're passing by nations that the Assyrians have taken over. A mountain of hands, mountain of feet, and sometimes they would take the heads of these men and pile them up. I feel like a lot of you guys are really into like very violent and gory movies, so I'm just trying to read the room here. But there's a movie called 300, which it's not entirely, it's based on history. And these Spartans, they're trying to defeat the Persians. So the Persians are coming in and they're trying to take over the Spartans. And the Spartans are expert in war. And so legion after legion, the Persians are sending at them, and the Spartans are just manhandling them. These 300 dudes, just killing all of them. And there's this one time that the Persians are coming in, and this is just in the movie, but they come to say, okay, here's the deal. You guys are going to die, and you just need to surrender now. And King Leonidas says, I don't think that's happening. And then you look back, and you see a wall, a pile of dead people. And you're like, oh, these guys are intense. Yeah, and this is, why would Assyria be so...
They would also impale people on the road too.
And not from not like a shish kebab where here's the thing, and then your belly, where your head and your feet. This is from the bottom up through. This is some pretty nasty stuff. Right, colonoscopy. If that's what that's like, I'm not ready for it.
Much more brutal version.
Woo. Okay. And so not only that, they killed pregnant ladies as well. Scripture is very visceral that they would rip open their bellies, which makes me want to throw up. All that stuff. That's in Scripture. That's in Scripture. It's so you can't not know. Okay. So I asked the question again. Why would Jonah not want to go to Nineveh?
All of the above.
So number one, all of this here. Number one, those things could happen to him. We find out in chapter 4 that Jonah knows who God is and who God's character is. And so he knows that if he preaches a message, you need to call out against this city because their evil has come up before me. He knows that if he preaches a message like that, the possibility that the Ninevites, the Assyrians, could turn from their evil ways and be saved from destruction is possible. Because that's what he says in chapter 4, and we're going to get there. Oh, man, let's just turn there. Yeah, but I mean, it just gives so much more context. Okay, so in chapter... Oh, yeah. I had one person I was interning with that's not Morgan, that she said, hey, I haven't watched Harry Potter's, don't spoil the ending for me. I was like, chick, all of these movies have been out for 7 years. I don't understand how you know what happens. Anyway, chapter 4, let's read. Come on now. Yeah. Everybody dies in the end, Marshall. So chapter 4. I mean, we know the story, but it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he was happened to the city. Verse 2. And he prayed to the Lord, and he said, "O Lord, is this not what I said whenever I was in my country? This is what I made. This is why I made haste to gracious, because I knew that you were gracious and merciful God, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love, and relenting from disaster." What's cool is that Jonah quotes Scripture to God. He says back in Exodus when Moses said, "Hey, God, show me your glory." God comes and shares his personal name, says, "My name is Yahweh," and he says these, "I'm gracious and merciful, I'm slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love, and relenting from disaster." So so angry that God is who he says that he is. He preaches this message. They repent and they're saved. He's like, okay, so he said, this is why I went to leave for Tarshish. The question is, he paid the fare and he went down to it. He went down to Tarshish back in chapter 1. He went with them to Tarshish and to flee from the presence of the Lord. At least one of the main motivations that he doesn't want to go is because these are the enemies. These people are terrible. God, if you're going to save him, it's not going to be through me. I am not going to be that person. Hey, Jonah, what'd you do this weekend? Well, I preached to our enemies that if they change their evil ways, that God will save them. Jonah, you idiot, what are you doing? We want them to die. We don't want them to be saved. What have you done? This is ridiculous. So, and the crazy part is that he tries to flee the presence of the Lord. There are times for us. Is their curriculum not over yet? If you can't hear, it's the it's the recorder. It's happening again. You can't. This is. That's right. Just like in Scripture, whenever Jonah's trying to flee the presence of the Lord, you cannot flee the presence of the recorders. Okay, you can do it. Okay, this is the real life application for us. Okay, all right. So just a thought. Okay, there have been times in my life that I know exactly what God wants me to do, or at least a direction, and I maybe not out loud, but I say no in my actions. And you can feel a little guilt for God has called me to do this thing, and I didn't do it. And so sometimes we try and be like, well, I'm not going to pray for a little bit because like that'd be awkward to be like, hey, God, you put that opportunity in front of me, and I said no. I'm so sorry. Flee the presence of the Lord. He's just like, man, you know what? Not me. You're not going to use me. And he pays the fare, which is probably a huge, hefty sum. He pays the pirates who don't do anything in VeggieTales to flee to the ends of the earth, okay? Away from the presence of the Lord, okay? This is pretty intense, okay? And to bring this into 2022, it would be like people from Ukraine going to preach repentance to Putin in Russia and the people that aim to destroy Ukraine, okay? I know there's lots of politics and stuff like that too, so let's not worry about those kinds of things, right? But what would we want? What would we want to happen? Say we're in Jonah's shoes. What would we want to happen? I'm in Jonah's boat. I guess he gets on a boat. But I'm in Jonah's boat where, God, number one, I don't understand why you would want this. You want to save the people that are vicious murderers that are destroying the world? I don't think so. Not about that. That's pretty intense. So what would you have wanted to happen? Would you want God to destroy? Or do you feel like Jonah, that you have the right to judge and say what you think is right or wrong? Okay? So he has two choices. Either run away or run to. He can either run away from Nineveh or run to Nineveh. And he chooses away. Tarshish, about 2,500 miles away at the ends of the earth, okay? Nothing special about Tarshish besides the fact that it is the farthest distance that Jonah knows in the world to get away. If you were going to try and get the farthest away from this point right here in northwest Arkansas, it's got to be somewhere in Europe or China that's on the opposite side of the world. It's the same thing for Jonah. I've got to get away from the presence of the Lord, so I'm leaving to the ends of the earth. Ooh, that's pretty intense, okay? So there's a couple of reasons why he may not want to go. He doesn't want God to save these people. He wants them to pay. What does God want? He wants to save everybody, including these rings, skinning alive, burning alive, burned alive, buried alive, cutting off hands, feet, heads, making pyramids, impaling, killing pregnant ladies, and bashing their children upon the rocks. God wants to save those people. Theologically, in my heart, I know that's true. I feel like I'm more like Jonah, though, and surely not, right? And I'll preach it from the pulpit, teach it to the teenagers of that God will save the serial killers, the rapists, the murderers. He wants them to be saved, and that's true. That's hard for me to stomach that's there. Yeah, I almost said it out loud, but yes. Jeffrey Dahmer too. And what's crazy is about at the end of his life, Jeffrey Dahmer, according to the history, he accepted Jesus as his Lord and Savior. So, if that was real, and if God alone knows his heart, then we will be sharing paradise with Jeffrey Dahmer. You don't want to run into him, though. What's crazy is that whenever we see him, that we would see Jesus. What's even crazier, you've got Paul, the people that Paul murdered are going to be in heaven, and whenever Paul dies, and he does die, he comes into heaven, and the people that he murdered are like, thank God that Paul is here, because he changed. It's a 180. That's crazy. And so what's crazy is that, I mean, if Jeffrey Dahmer is there, or if he's not, the people that he took advantage of and destroyed, well, if they were believers, would be like, man, welcome, which is crazy. And that's hard for me. I see Laurie just struggling with it because that's the rest of us, right? We're struggling. Why would God want to save these people? I think Jonah is right where we all are and say, man, I am not cool or good with that in a way. And so he does what I'm not sure if I would run quite as far, but he decides it's time to go. Okay? So can we get through these 2 chapters in just a couple of minutes? I think so. Verse 4. But God, Yahweh, it's I don't know if your translations say Lord in all caps, but that's God's personal name, so Yahweh. But the Lord hurled a great wind upon the sea, and there was a mighty tempest on the sea, so that the ship threatened to break up. Then the mariners were afraid, and they cried out to his God. Each cried out to his God. Okay, so they're not believers in Yahweh, but they're crying out to the gods that they believe in. Okay, and asking for help. And they hurled cargo that was in the ship into the sea to lighten it for them. But Jonah had gone down to the inner part of the ship and had lain down and was fast asleep. So the captain came and said, What do you mean, you sleeper? Arise and call out to your God. Perhaps the God will give to us that we may not perish. So these Jonah is a complex character. Number one, he's an anti-prophet, because God gives him a word to say, and he says, no, I'm going to run in the opposite direction. So his one job, he's doing the opposite of it. And then, because the people on the ship, they're struggling because of this. The Lord hurled a great wind upon the sea. And so all of this is happening because Jonah's on the boat. And all of these people, they're doing what Jonah should be doing too. They're praying to their gods. They're trying to throw the cargo off. And Jonah, he should be doing the same thing. He should be praying to God, I messed up. I should be God. I'm so sorry. Please save these men. Please save these guys. But instead, he's asleep. So these guys right now are more righteous than Jonah is. And so call out to your God so we may not perish. Verse 7. And then they said to one another, come, let us cast lots that we may know on whose account this evil has come upon us. Right? So they're going to try and figure out, okay, there's a reason that these bad things are happening. Let's cast lots. I will never not think this whenever I read this verse. In the VeggieTales movie, they play Go Fish. So they play Go Fish, and whoever has the last card, yes, they do. They're going, like sitting on the, the ship is Canadians. Yeah, and then whenever, in the end, Jonah is the one that doesn't have 2 pairs, and everybody looks up and is like, oh, Jonah, okay? I will never not think of it. They cast lots, and they fall on Jonah. So Jonah, number one, he doesn't ante up. He doesn't say, they're like, let's try and figure out who did wrong, okay? He doesn't ante up and say, it's me right off the bat, okay? These guys are about to die, and Jonah is playing games, where he could have been praying that whole time, but he doesn't. He could have just admitted it and said, it's me, I'm the reason that we're here, but he waits until he's the one with the last 2 cards standing. Right? And they said, verse 8, they said to Jonah, tell us on whose account this evil has come upon us. What's your occupation? What's your job? And where do you come from? What's your country? And what people are you? They're peppering him with questions. Dude, what's the deal? Why? What have you done? What's your occupation? Were you bad business dealings? Why are you trying to go to Tarshish? All this stuff, all those things. In verse 9, and he said, I'm a Hebrew, and I fear Yahweh, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. So they're praying to all their gods, and he says, guys, the one God, he's the guy that made the land and the sea. Verse 10, and the men were exceedingly afraid, so they knew something about Yahweh. And they said, what is this that you've done? For the men knew that he was fleeing from the presence of the Lord because he had told them. So he tells them, I'm fleeing the presence of God. And he's on the ship. And they said, what is it? What did you do? How could you possibly do that? And then verse 11, he says to them, what shall we do? Or they say to him, what shall we do to you that the sea may quiet down for us? For the sea grew more and more tempestuous. Wow, what a word, tempestuous. And he said, verse 12, pick me up, hurl me into the sea, and the sea will quiet down for you, because I know it is because of me that this great tempest has come upon you. Okay. What's Jonah's game here?
I'd rather die here in the sea than have to be killed.
That's what I think too. I think that's the best. And maybe he's a good dude trying to save his skin. The truth is that we don't really know. He said, "Man, I would rather die than." That's what God's going for, right? The ship is threatening to break up, and he says, "Man, you know what? Just throw me into the sea." For a long time, and I don't know where you fall, Marshall, but for a long time, I was thinking, man, what a righteous dude, sacrificing himself for the rest of the people. And maybe that's the case. I think that there's some selfishness. I think you look at Jonah's character of like, man, you know what? Like, it's my time to die, so I'd rather die than go and preach this message to these people. So he's ready to give up and say, man, you know what? Like, this is ridiculous. What's crazy is that these men on the boat that don't believe in Yahweh are so much more righteous than Jonah. Let's keep going. So he says that, pick me up and hurl me into the sea, and the sea will quiet down. Verse 13, nevertheless, the men rowed hard to get back to dry land, but they could not, for the sea grew more and more tempestuous against them. So they said, we're not going to kill this guy, even if he's telling us to. This is one life. Even if he's done something wrong, this is one life, and we'll continue to row and row hard to get back to land. Jonah says, man, let's just give up. I'm done with me. I'm done with my life and my calling, whatever. Just let me die. The men that do not believe in God said, man, that is not an option. Let's just row and let's get out of here. But verse 14, therefore they call out to God. They stop calling on their gods and they call out to Yahweh. And they prayed, oh, this is so cool. They prayed to God. Let us not perish for this man's life, and lay not on us innocent blood, for you, O Lord, have done as it has pleased you. So they say, God, listen, he wants this, and maybe you want this too. And they're praying to this God that they do not know. And they say, man, this is our only option. He's told us to do it. And so you know what? We're going to do it. Don't let his innocent blood. They're praying for forgiveness before they actually do the thing that Jonah's asking them to do. And so verse 15, they pick up Jonah, and they hurled him into the sea, and the sea ceased from its raging. On the VeggieTales movie, in my mind, the VeggieTales movie, this is like biblical canon, okay? He's got a rubber ducky raft because they don't want him to have floaty, thank you. They don't want him to die, but they know he needs to be off, and then he jumps off the plank, goes into the water, and then immediately it's like it's crystal clear waters, and like, well, maybe we should bring him back in, said one guy. Right? Guys, this is the youth ministry and me trying to teach an adult class. I apologize. And it ceased from raging. In verse 16, then the men feared God exceedingly, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord, and they made vows. Jonah God taught them something about Yahweh's character. They feared God, and they said, man, this is, all these other gods that we were praying to, but then this one God that this guy serves, there's something about him that is legit. So what do? They don't know what to do besides offering a sacrifice to Yahweh, and they made vows. God, help us to never do that again. Help us to deal nicely. Help us, something like they're making vows, which is pretty crazy. Okay, and then verse 17 is the most famous part. My version says, "And the Lord anointed a great fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights." Okay. Mine says. Oh, I'm sorry. Mine says appointed. Appointed. What does y'all's version say?
Mine says provided.
Provided. Yeah. The Lord had appointed. So God, is this a is this a malicious act to destroy his prophet? It doesn't look like it. And that certainly didn't happen because something that is impossible for Jonah to be in the belly of this fish for 3 days and 3 nights. That happens. That's pretty cool. And so, yeah, and the Lord appointed a great fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. Okay, we've got 10 minutes to get through chapter 2, and I think we can do it very easily, okay? Let's get into Jonah's head really quick. Where are you at? If you're Jonah, where are you? I mean, physically you're in a whale, but where are you at emotionally? What do you think? Scared? Defeated? He prays that too. Yeah, man, I tried to flee from the presence of the Lord. And as Marshall read the verse, what was it in the Psalms? I forget. 139. I go up to the heavens and you were there. Is it Psalm 139 or is it Psalm 136? It is. It's the beginning parts of Psalm 139. Yep. And so I go into the heavens and you were there. I go down into the depths and you were there. I go to the right and to the left. You were there. I can't flee from your presence, God, which is super crazy. I think he realizes no matter where I go, I can't get out of this. That's too bad. Okay. What did you say he's scared of? What do you think he's scared of? Yeah. Am I slowly going to get digested? Like,
I mean, I'm just thinking of physically being swallowed up by any living creature.
yeah.
You don't know. I mean, we can look back at the story and know, oh, it's 3 days, 3 nights, but you didn't know.
Yeah.
He was probably wishing he was in the VeggieTales version, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, in Pinocchio, whenever they get swallowed by Monstro, they make a fire. That's how they get out, right? So there's a fire. I'm picturing, exactly, because that one is also real. I mean, we don't know how big this fish is, and there's nothing that says whale. It doesn't really matter. It's just a big fish.
Who's gonna like? There's not gonna be a funeral. There's not like.
Who's going to even know?
If he was this celebrity
Yeah.
before, now that like he disappeared in the sea, that's it. And
Yeah.
You guys didn't even know who he was, so like nobody back home. It's just gonna be like, hey, remember that guy Jonah? I wonder what happened to him.
Do you think though that, since he was, quote, the celebrity prophet, that maybe his head was getting a little bit too big
That's
for
what I'm
him?
saying. I think there's
And
some
God
humility here
was
that-
sending him there to,
Well, he says, hey, good job, because he's doing the things that he needs to do. Good job. Here's something really hard.
What was he prophesying before that he got such a big hit? I mean, why did they?
It was,
good things.
yeah, it was just, I say pretty simple. We're going to expand our borders. The people are going to be blessed economically through Jeroboam II.
So he wasn't saying anything about the bad guys.
Not that we know of, because we don't have anything. We've got the book of Jonah, and then this one. Is there a reference in 2 Chronicles about Jonah as well? Also, same thing. Okay, I think it's just right here. So, I mean, prophets. I mean, you've got some prophets like Isaiah, Jeremiah, that you've got 66 books worth of prophecy, and we've got this one very, very, very quick sermon and prophecy in Jonah, and then it doesn't even say word for word the things that he said as a prophet. Just, hey, these good things happen as was prophesied by Jonah, the son of Amittai.
He's probably feeling too, like, I didn't want to go to Nineveh because I was afraid that they were going to, like, torture me, and, like, here I am in a fish.
There's bad things are going to happen either way, so might as well just follow God and say yes to God's call, right? All right, so in these last couple of minutes, he's there 3 days and 3 nights, and that's significant to something that Jesus says in the New Testament, but we'll get to that at the end of 4. He was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. And then it says in chapter 2, then Jonah prayed to Yahweh, his God, from the belly of the fish. Okay. Just a quick question before we read it. What day and what night is he praying this prayer? How long did it take him to pray this prayer? We don't know. Yeah, it is a trick question. We don't know. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know how long he was. Well, in VeggieTales,
waters threatened me, the deep surrounded me. Seaweed was wrapped around my head. And then the roots of the mountain
Yeah.
sank. And then he says, but you, Lord my God, brought my life up from the pit. When my life was ebbing away, I remembered you. So I think he turned before the whale.
Yeah.
Before he got swallowed.
Before he got swallowed. Ooh, nice. I want to hear your alternate views about the prayer I don't know if we've got enough time for it. Let's read the prayer word for word really quick, and you guys can tell me, okay? Verse 2. I called out to the Lord out of my distress, and he answered me. Out of the belly of the depths, or Sheol, I cried, and you heard my voice. For you cast me into the deep, into the heart of the seas, and the flood surrounded me. All your waves and your billows, they passed over me. Then I said, I'm driven away from your sight, yet I shall look again upon your holy temple. Okay, so he drove himself away from God, but again, he's going to look up to God from upon your holy temple. Verse 5, what Mariette said, the waters closed over me to take my life. The deep surrounded me. Seaweeds were wrapped around my head. At the roots of the mountains, I went down to the land whose bars are closed upon me forever. Yet you brought my life up from the pit, O Lord my God. And when I was fainting away, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came to you into your holy temple. Those who pay regard to vain idols forsake their hope of steadfast love. But I, with the voice of thanksgiving, I will sacrifice to you what I have vowed, I will pay. What I have vowed, I will pay. And then he finishes it, and he says, salvation belongs to the Lord. Salvation belongs to the Lord. In verse 10, and the Lord spoke to the fish, hey, buddy, get this guy out of there. And he vomits Jonah out upon the dry land. Okay? So a couple of things I can think of in this. I just have a question of how long it takes him to pray this prayer. He's like, just wait to die. That's more of what I see Jonah as. It doesn't say anything about that. I'm just making some assumptions, I guess. Of like, all right, it's time to die. When are the digestion fluid's going to come, and I'm just going to slowly die? Am I going to drown? Like, was he in there and like kind of caught up to his neck? It's just kind of like the fish is going and the waters are up there, and that's a long time to just kind of be floating in a fish. That kind of stinks. Whatever it is, it says that he prays to God in the belly of the fish, and he says a couple of things. But the most important is this in verse 9. What I have vowed, I will pay. What I said that I would do, I'm going to be your prophet. I'll be your prophet. And he says salvation belongs to God. I did it my way, and I realized that I can't save myself. I can't get away. I can't flee the presence of the Lord. Salvation belongs to the Lord. And what's crazy is that, here's Miss Laurie right here. There you go. We're good. What's crazy is that Jonah realizes, at least for a moment, as we're going to see, at least for a moment, salvation belongs to God. So you know what? Maybe it's begrudgingly. If God wants to save those people, salvation belongs to God. So back to the trolley thing or whatever. It's hard for us to make a decision because we don't have the facts. I mean, I guess we have as many facts as we need to make a decision. But the truth is that the salvation comes from God. We can't decide who is saved and who is not saved. We can't decide who God chooses. We can't decide the people that we decide these are bad people that can't be saved, and these are, I'm a good person and God will save me. God will save who he chooses. The crazy part, I love the book of Job because it's super, it's depressing. I really like depressing books. Jeremiah is one of my favorites. I really like depressing movies and stuff too. I don't know why, which is super funny, but whatever, it's fine. At the end of Job, lots of things are taken from Job. And Job has some honest questions. He's like, I don't think I did anything wrong. And at one point he says, God, you are punishing me unjustly. You're punishing me and have taken away everything, and I didn't deserve any of this. And then he demands, God, you need to tell me, you need to show up, you need to tell me to my face. I've written to you and I've said, this is my petition. These are all the good things that I've done, and I don't deserve any of this. And God comes out and he doesn't answer him and say why. He just says, well, Job, trying to show him how in control God is and how little that we know about this world. He says, were you there whenever I taught an eagle how to fly? Were you a part of that? conversation? What about whenever the small deer was born in the forest? Were you there, a part of that? Did you? Oh, well, maybe Jonah, or maybe Job. Maybe you were at the depths of the sea, whenever I created that, and you've seen the things at the bottom of the ocean, and you know how they work, all those things. Well, maybe not. Maybe you know how I hold back the heavens and the sky, and whenever it rains, how I open up the floodgates and rain comes down. You know how that works, right? The whole point is God saying, you're a human, and you just don't know. And you have to be okay with that. And so Jonah here is confronted with the same thing. The truth is that God wants to save everybody, including the Ninevites, these scary people. I want to save them too. And it doesn't matter, and you don't need to exactly know why or if they deserve it. The truth is that they don't deserve it. The truth is that we don't deserve it. But God is willing to save even the worst of peoples, and he offers that up, okay? So, at the end, I called the lesson whenever we worked through this prayer a gutsy prayer. Gutsy prayer. So funny. I'm a dad. Dad jokes, right? Okay. So we're going to see if Jonah has a true change of heart, or maybe it's all a show. I'm not sure. Any questions or comments as we're finishing up?
Have you ever been caught with a
Like a full-fledged one, but that's scary.
It's very scary, and especially if seaweed dust wrap around you. And I've never thought about this before until you were talking about it as I read this. That was a really bad riptide. He got caught in that storm, and the seaweed wrapped around him, and he was pulled down to the bottom. He was gonna die. That's why I think Marriott's right. He realized only the Lord can do anything about this.
Yep.
So he prayed this after he was saved again.
Yeah. Yeah. It appears, he says, man,
Probably the most frightening thing about an ocean I've been through.
yeah.
Probably because I've been in one.
And I think what's crazy is that maybe, and I don't wish it for any of us, but maybe sometimes that's what happens to us too. He waits until we are at the bottom and caught in between a rock and a hard place with nothing else except for God. That's all we've got. And he says, okay, I can work with that. Let's go. I don't wish that on any of us, but man, is it a learning point for each of us. I think each of us could probably go back to a moment where we say, man, this is the bottom and all I had was God. And that's where Jonah is. So I think we get to your alternate thing at the end of 4. Because I had Marshall shared some things with me months ago about Jonah that I hadn't thought about. And it's good. So cool. Okay, well, if you're online, I hope that you're warmer than we are. And thank you for everything. And we will not catch up next week.
I don't know. I think for those who are here next week, we should have a screening of the VeggieTales movie.
So, oh, man, you should. That would be awesome.